Today, we're joined by René Groben from Matís in Iceland. René is a project manager and researcher there, and he's working on microalgal cultivation linked to aquaculture. So René, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Great to have you. Yeah, and it's fantastic. We're in the same time zone again, so we're not hitting you too early or anything like that. Great. So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about Matís and then the research you're doing there, please.
Yeah, so I'm a molecular microbiologist and working with microalgae for a couple of decades now. And now for the last few years, I'm at Matís in Iceland. And Matís is a governmental research institute in the food and biotech sector. We are owned by the Icelandic state, but we are and organized as a company, but don't have to be creating profit. So everything we earn can be reinvested. And one of the things that we are doing is value creation for the Icelandic food and biotech industry. And one of these things that fits into it is work on aquaculture and microalgae in combination with that. So that is one of the things I'm interested in and working in, how to combine these two fields into one for the value creation of the industry.
Fantastic. And in terms of that, so I think we were chatting just before this, and you were saying you're starting a new project then, looking at microalgae cultivation.
Yeah.
And so what exactly is that project going to look at?
Yeah, so the project is called BlueBioChain, and it's about it's an EU-funded BlueBio co-fund project led by a Greek colleague, Panayotis Georgias from Thessaloniki, the Hellenistic aquaculture organization Demeter.
Yeah.
But there are colleagues all over Europe. And the idea behind it is to use wastewater from various industries, including the aquaculture industry, to grow microalgae. And the idea behind this, and I'm involved in the aquaculture part of this project, the idea behind it is that the wastewater is, of course, waste. It has to be dealt with in one way or the other. On the other hand, it's also a valuable resource, or could be. So, for example, what comes out of aquaculture has often still nutrients in it. Even when you use, for example, the RAS systems, the recirculation aquaculture systems, you still end up with some waste and some nutrients in it. So either you have to spend money to get rid of it, or you do something useful with it. And I'm now talking about land-based aquaculture, of course. So that is something that where you have this waste. And one of the ideas is then to use this wastewater to grow microalgae in it. And these microalgae can then be used for various applications, either directly going back into the aquaculture industry. So, for example, producing microalgae for fish feed, or you can do something completely different with it. You can grow microalgae for nutraceuticals, for pigments, for biofuel, and so on and so on. So that is the idea for us to really look into a lot of different applications, a lot of different ways to do it, tailored to basically what you have available.
It's fantastic, and there's a huge amount of uses there for the wastewater. So it really is of interest to many different stakeholders within the sector as well. Yeah, and can you tell me what stage of development is the project at?
So the whole topic became, I think, quite hot recently in the last couple of years, not only in our project, but in multiple projects where people are looking into finding the best way to do things. But as I said, it's very open. It very much depends on what you want to have, what you want to invest. So the way this is currently done is at a level of, I think, pilot studies, research in the lab with the aquaculture industry very often together. And people are trying to find, first of all, the best microalgal species to grow on these kind of things, the best way to treat them, the best way to grow them, and then you have the microalgae then available for your applications. So, for example, if I was working with a company here in Iceland who just wanted to do this on a very easy and low level, and that's completely fine. So they did not want to invest in a lot of machinery and bioreactors and these kind of things. They just took some of their waste, grew them in plastic bags, tested with a student from a university as a master project, different types of algal species, and could just see what was growing, what was not, and then they could use the algae as an additional supplement to their feed, bringing some omega-3 and protein just on top of it. Low costs, low gain maybe, but also low impact in terms of finances and labor and research. But this is the thing, we are mainly in the world, I think, and in Europe in this type of research phase where we are seeing what is best for different applications.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting as well, that it can be scaled to different levels. So, there's for a small producer, there's no need to invest in, there's no like hundreds of thousands of euro worth of new equipment, so it's interesting. Yeah.
You could have a very simple bioreactor. You have to get, of course, some knowledge about these things, but it's really, you can do it, let's say, on the cheap, but then, of course, you will not get lots of money out of it. The question is, do you want to have it as an addition to your system, or just to get the waste recycled even more so than you do right now, and save money there? Or do you want to have this as a second value creation, as a second product line for your company? That's really up to you then to decide and set up as you like.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, and there's really two different directions you can go with it. And if you just went down the route of, I guess, just reusing your own waste, and you're not trying to create huge profits, it even, I think, would help the sustainability of your operations as well.
Yes. Yeah. That's one of the ideas is to use the algae to recycle and then do something useful with it, instead of just paying for this, or in the worst case scenario, chucking it into the environment, which in some parts of the world this is still done.
Yeah. So it's kind of a win-win in that sense, like in terms of environmental protection. And in terms of, let's say, research going on in Europe, like, are there many other projects looking into this? There are many other organizations? Yeah,
so I think there's quite a lot. And for example, you can look at the number of review papers out there, which is even quite recent from this year and from the last years, summarizes these type of things. So there's a lot of activity going on, not only in our project, but in multiple projects in this. But everyone is testing, let's say, different algae, different application. The idea of using microalgae for fish feed is of course the natural first step, because people then using it for their own good. They are not selling the things, but possibly using it for themselves, just as a supplement for their fish, and they can then choose mainly the algae that are producing omega-3 and proteins to increase the value of their fish feed.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, because it really is a hot topic, as you said yourself, like it's up and coming. And in terms of the project you're working on at the moment, so what are the next steps for that?
Yeah, so currently we are setting up here our little collection, and we are testing different strains of microalgae on the waste. So Matís has a small testing aquaculture facility. So we have a few tanks where we do feeding experiments, and with a RAS system, and I will use the waste from that, and just testing algae agreed in the consortium for different applications. So we are interested in, as I said, fish feed, so omega-3 and protein ones, and there are algae that have been used, just not on wastewater, but grown in, let's say, standard microalgal cultivation systems, bioreactors or open ponds, depending on your place. So in Ireland and Iceland, most likely not too many open ponds, given our climates. But with bioreactors, of course, you have all the control about the growth conditions. So these algae are known to be good and useful, just we don't know yet how to grow them in the best way on waste. Do we have to treat the waste? Do we have to add nutrients, for example, for the best growth? Where is the cutoff where where the waste basically doesn't make sense anymore? All these things we test, and we will use also the aquaculture waste for species that are not directly for the feed. So, for example, for pigments or for nutraceuticals, cosmetics, so that this would be then higher value products based on these things. So that's a testing phase where we start now setting up different algal strains and see how they grow, and then go from there.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like there's a lot of work to kind of optimize the growing process. Yeah, fantastic. And tell me, if someone wanted to find out more about the project or about Matís, where is the best place to go?
For Matís, we have, of course, our websites, very simple, matís.is. And for the project, we will set up a website as well very soon. That is just started. So we are still in this first phase, but it will come. And about the general information about these kind of things, I guess your website will be a good starting point for all kinds of aquaculture information. And there will be press releases more and more coming out about this topic, I'm pretty sure.